Thanks for coming, everybody. I'm Cody. I'm the head of education at TrainingPeaks. I'm going to be doing most of the talking today about kind of how to build community in TrainingPeaks Virtual, partly like what community could mean in TrainingPeaks Virtual, and then what actual like settings and features and functions in Virtual can help you do that best. But before we get started, while we let a few other people in, we've got a couple of other introductions as well. So we'll do Kate and then George.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Hector. I'm the product marketing manager for Training Peaks. My role today is mostly chatting with you all and helping answer questions and supporting in the background. So that's my job today.
And
Yeah.
George,
Hi, I'm George Gilbert. I'm Vice President at Training Peaks and head up Training Peaks Virtual, having originally designed and built the application. So likewise, I'm here to answer any kind of technical questions and help however I can.
and actually for to also ease into it, to see if there's any stragglers as well, we're going to start with a couple of polls. Just quick questions. We want to have an idea of who is interested in doing this, who's interested in using Training Peaks Virtual and how. So we want to start with what sport are you doing? It's currently a cycling kind of forward, but it does not have to be and probably will not be limited to that in the future. And we understand that the way cyclists and triathletes and eventually runners and other sports kind of interact with community and set up communities have cultural differences. So we want to learn about that and help kind of support future decisions and um, what you're trying to do with that more. So we'll leave this one open for a minute or two. If I set this up right, you should be able to choose multiple. We know lots of triathlon coaches are also running and cycling coaches. Um, but yeah, it looks like it's working for everybody. We're getting lots of answers pretty rapidly. And then by the end, we should have plenty of time for Q&A and even feedback or other discussions. So that will come at the end, but feel free to ask questions as we go, especially if something comes up that we're going to move past. We'll try best to circle back to that. Um, so that question is slowing down a little bit. So I think we can end that one. And then we have one more question. Sorry for all the initial upfront homework, but it's the last one. We also want to understand what kind of events people are interested in hosting. Because the events are kind of the center of community. There's other pieces to it, but the events are the main part so far that we think. And so we want to see what kind of event you're interested in. Um, and then if this changes at the end. Still a few people answering, but really fast. So that's very helpful. All right, I think we can close that poll, but and now we do everybody's favorite part. Um, Maybe we'll pull these results. I'll share these results now. Um, so group rides, races, group workouts, other group coaching sessions. This is uh, pretty close to in line with what we hear talking to coaches a lot. So this is good news. I will talk about all of these. It would have been bad if everybody had said they're only interested in one thing because I have slides on all of them. So now we do everybody's favorite part where I try to share my screen correctly. All right. And everybody, I'll get a thumbs up from Kate or George if they can see my screen. So what we want to talk about is building community mostly through events, but also through just the existence of clubs and teams with Training Peaks Virtual. A lot of indoor cycling platforms kind of started and made a lot of their impact as training aids, like solo training aids, helping you do workouts and making it a little more interesting. But it didn't take long before people started bootstrapping races and group rides and doing all the things that we all kind of do anyway as for fun and social engagement with riding. And so we're going to help you figure out how to do that best. Um, I won't go super into the weeds with the exact buttons you're supposed to click to set up the events. Um, the actual settings and features aren't difficult to figure out. If you've used Training Peaks Virtual at all, you probably understand how to do this already. If not, really, you can just set up a few test events and you'll learn it really quickly. I will talk about what some features are, if they're especially if they're not clear immediately what effect they have and how that can help you with certain types of events. So, loose agenda, more just overall topics. We're going to talk about what actually is community in this context of kind of endurance sports in the virtual world. What do people want or need from communities? Not just the people participating, but you are here because you want to kind of be the host and the organizer. What do you want or need to get out of this? Like you're allowed to have an agenda as well. Who creates these events? Who creates community and who participates? Why? Why do people participate in that? That's going to be a big part of this. Of like if you ask yourself this question first about why people are doing this and what they want, then you can make the decisions on how to actually set up events and what you're going to do become a lot clearer. And then how to actually tailor virtual events to those community needs and your expertise in what you want to provide. Are you a coach? Are you an organizer? Do you run a charity? Like you have something to provide that is probably more specific than just the person who sets up the events. So some things to remember that I think are just important in general, but also unique to Training Peaks Virtual in a lot of ways. Anyone can make a team uh, or club. It's a manual process in that like you can't go in and click the buttons and just have a team in your kit set up immediately. You do have to write into our team, but it is a very quick, very painless, very easy process. Um, it, I don't know, George might know more than I do right now, but it seems to be taking about 3 to 5 business days at most to get somebody's club set up once they write in with the information about who's going to manage it and everything. Um, I love this. I was a Zwift user for a long time before I knew what Indie Bello and then Training Peaks Virtual were. And I was just waiting for, I mean, we all kind of waited for years before we were allowed to set up our own teams. And then getting your own kit into that game was, I don't, you had to know somebody who knew somebody, and it was kind of impossible. So it's just very cool to me that this can just happen with almost no effort. And so setting up a team or club in virtual comes with kits and branding, and I'll show you what effect that has and how nice and cool it looks. Um, Anyone can create events, which is also an immediate, unique thing in Training Peaks Virtual that I really like, especially races. So events in TPB can be rides, races, workouts. I threw in tours, and what that it's kind of meant to be placeholder for. There's so much configuration in Training Peaks Virtual. You can create unique things that don't fit neatly into these categories. Like what kind of cool events do you want to do that aren't just, your weekly group ride? Um, I'll have some examples for this later, but just as another one, currently there's a guy who is virtually riding around the world in 800 days. And so he has connected segments of custom routes every single day, and he rides for about an hour or two. And those are open events, so anybody can join him. That's a totally unique event. He's building a community with this like around the world ride. So that's planting the seeds for like creative things you can do with it. And then because anyone can create events, event hosting can be part of participation in your community. It doesn't have to be the one person who runs everything. That can be a two-way street. Everybody can take turns hosting events. Anybody can like set up little sub. If you have if your club is 2,000 people, you can have your subgroups, your A, B, and C teams, your anything with little individual ride leaders that all kind of fit under your big umbrella. And then the last thing to remember, and this will be what a lot of what I talk about is there are lots of settings and configuration options for events and clubs in virtual. And so what you're trying to do is create a configuration of settings and options that match the goal you're trying to do with your event. So these things are kind of obvious in the real world. Like if you want a group ride, here's how you set up a group ride. You invite people here and you tell them we're not racing. but there's a few buttons to click in virtual to satisfy what you're trying to do. Is this a no drop group ride? Is this a spicy group ride? Is this a training race? Is this a real race? And so there's things you can set up to make that all work the way you want. So to start with community, I always like to think of this because this is true in virtual worlds. This is true in the real world. This is true in cycling. This is true in flat Earth societies. This is true in political parties. This is true in everything. Is people just want to be a part of something. They just want to have a place where they can hang out with people and feel welcome. Um, and so at the top level, there's kind of psychosocial things. And again, this seems a little abstract or theoretical, but if you think about this just for a few minutes before you sit down and start making events, it can help you narrow down the decisions for what you're going to do with your events. So people want engagement, they want belonging, and belonging can be exclusive or inclusive. So inclusive being like uh, pride rides in June. You want everybody to show up. Anybody who wants to can register, and it's a big party. Or it could be inclusive, like this is your local elite racing team, and it's application only. The people have to apply, and it's kind of a secret club. Both of those are valid, but you should know which one you're going for. Participation, active or passive. Are you trying to set up something where people can just show up and do as little or as much as they want? Can they just ride with you? Or are you setting up something where everybody's going to take turns as ride leaders? Everybody's going to like follow this workout, um, whether it's structured or unstructured. So again, what are the needs of the people you want to hang out with? Interaction, and then that like, is this an existing group? Are you just trying to make the virtual equivalent of a club that already exists in the real world? That's pretty obvious. Or is this a way for new people to join your local triathlon community or your charity or your whatever it is that you're setting up? So again, just think about these things. And then people want motivation and accountability. As athletes, we kind of know those that having people around helps with those. Then the more specific community side of things that you can uh, provide in Training Peaks Virtual are the coaching and training sides of it, whether that's um, race tactics. I'll talk about the physics specific things in Training Peaks Virtual that you let you do a unique type of coaching for your clubs and teams, or beginner riders. You could treat this as like your community could be beginner lessons for how to coast through switchbacks. Um, Teamwork, pacing, psychological prep, course recon. And so all of these things are like, what little like extra piece of instruction are you providing in your community, if that's a part of your community, or is it just a Sunday beer ride? So clubs and teams, this satisfies that. And I'll throw up bullet points that just came from the previous slide as we go through to kind of remind you of which pieces this satisfies. So clubs and teams, engagement, belonging, and interaction. And these are all settings when you set up your team, or things you can put like in your description. So teams can be open invite. Any person can click a button, and you do still have to approve them. You get a notification that you can add them to the team, or they can be a little bit more exclusive. Like if it is just you and 7 of your closest friends, then you don't have to worry about getting a million notifications about people trying to apply for your team. And then you get custom branding. You can see this is a club I set up. It's YGR Fort Collins. This is your group ride. And you can see like my events have a custom banner, and then our kit has our logo on it. Even this is an example of kind of a unique community thing. This isn't a coaching group or race group. Your group ride is a local news website for like all things cycling community culture and race results. And we decided this would be a great way to have like kind of a cool thing to do in the winter for the local cyclists. And then once you have this branding set up in game, uh, this actually happens for any event that your club puts on and selects this branding for. So you can see the start finish arch, the roadside banners, and then the pendant banners all have the logo. I think it looks amazing. These look so good on a high resolution, a pretty nice screen, like any kind of modern computer. And it's just super fun to like have people show up in this game and then see logos and people and surroundings that they're familiar with. Like it immediately feels like kind of something special. So once you have your team set up, there aren't a lot of settings to teams, honestly. They're pretty clear when you go to set it up about like, are you a race team? Are you a club? Um, but once you have that, you can start thinking about, or even if you don't want to do a club or team, you just want to host events, um, we can start looking at all of the event options. I broke this down into three sections. In the actual app, like if you open the game and start setting up events, it's broken down further with very clear labels about like what each thing does. Um, for me, at the top are basics. What's the name? What's the description? What's the date and time? Um, and then what's the format? Is this a group ride or one of the races? So the basics you have to have for any real life or virtual ride. And the formats, you have group rides, scratch races. I put Kieran under there because as a hint that you can be creative with how you configure some of these things. So you can turn scratch races into Kierans. You can like create kind of unique event types with some of these settings that someday I'll write an article about and share with everybody. Points races. This was very exciting to me. My favorite um, race type was points races, and it was impossible to find good points races on Zwift. And now you can just race points races all the times. Elimination races, time trials, time challenges. So best distance in a given time. And then a bunch of team versions. You can do team time trials, team scratch races, team points races. So there's community aspects built into the racing options as well. So after the basics, and one of the basics thing is you can make any event public or private with an access code. So again, is this something that's like unique or like exclusive? Somebody has to pay to be a member of your club or your coaching group, and that's how they get access to these events? Or do they have to pay you to register because this is a serious race? Or is this big tent, anybody can show up? That's an option in this section. More advanced settings, there is an actual button at the bottom that says advanced options. Click that. Again, at the end, I'm going to give you all a bunch of recommendations for like, here's step by step how to like start doing this. One of the first steps is set up test events and click every button. Like there's no cost. We're not going to charge you to set up 10 test events on a single day that nobody shows up to, but this will help you understand all the settings. So click that advanced options button and then see some of these additional things that you can do. Another thing that's unique about virtual that I love that helps with a lot of the community engagement things is realistic bots. Several thousand different realistic bots that you can recruit to fill out your group rides and races. They all have different fitness profiles, different personalities, how they race, how they ride. And so you don't have to worry so much about if you're starting small, only three people showed up to my group ride. That's kind of a weird thing to do in a virtual world. You can have 50 other riders filling out the field, providing a draft, providing visual interest. Um, and then if it's competitive, if you want everybody racing together, if you want different categories for different ability levels, how wide or narrow those categories are, if people automatically get sorted into groups, everybody can have a competitive race, tons of options to like give people the experience you want. Like, do you want this to be hard and for people to suffer and get beat, or do you want people to feel like they've got a chance at winning? Um, Events, advanced settings. Uh, some of these are still have functional impact on the race. Things like, racer nerd detail things like lap rider drafting, um, full trainer feel. So, like, do you want to force everybody to actually have to experience the terrain? You're going to go through all this work to create a custom route that has really hard climbs, and then some people are going to turn off terrain mode. No, you want to make them suffer or at least experience the ride. And then some details like, do you want a neutral start for this? Do you want, and then weather and biome. Do you want it to be windy, rainy, night, day? Do you want it to look like alpine mountains in the background or the Mediterranean coast? Aesthetic things that don't have huge impacts on the actual game other than the wind, but things that can, again, make it more interesting, engaging, or varied over time.
George or Cody, could we talk about what we can do within a coach account versus an athlete account? Getting some
Oh,
questions about that.
that is a very good question. Uh, I'll let George take that one. I know, but I think George would have it probably memorized.
Yeah, no problem. So the fundamental difference between a coach account and an athlete account is that only an athlete can actually ride But other than that, they're basically identical. So you can log into Training Peaks Virtual with a coach account. You can spectate other riders. You can chat with other riders. You can create events. So basically everything. Administer your team with a coach account. The only fundamental difference is actually riding, where you need an athlete account login.
Yeah, so my recommendation is if you have a coach and athlete account, most coaches we find using Training Peaks do, make both of them an admin for your club so that way you can kind of use um, both interchangeably if needed. And then choose which account you're in the most. I'm in my coach account all the time. And so that's the one where I have all of my custom routes and do most of my event planning from there. But then if I happen to like, but then I still have my athlete account to actually ride in. So um, hopefully that, hopefully I didn't just unclarify George's clarification. Um, so those are kind of the event settings overall. There's a bunch of them. Like I said, go through and like all of them. This is supposed to plant seeds of an idea of like, oh, bots. I saw something about aggressive and passive bots. I saw something about like weather. I saw something about like female only races. Like so you'll be able to find all these. Now I'm going to go through and show uh, what settings can kind of match these needs and goals that we talked about with your community. I will eventually I'm going to turn this into a guide or an article like that will give you like a template for settings that hopefully I can publish in the next week or two, but it might end up being more like a month or two. So look out on the Training Peaks blog or in the Help Center, you'll see something that's like recommended settings for group rides, recommended settings for races. So that'll be out here. This is kind of the first version of that. So group rides, again, we're going for engagement, belonging, participation, all of these things. So things to think about, and I tried to underline things that are specific settings or features. Um, Training Peaks Virtual has a chat option and it is connected to the mobile app. So if you're familiar with other platforms that do this, you can have virtual running on your computer, projected to your big TV screen, and then running the mobile companion app separately on your phone. And there's like the chat tab on that. So you can be chatting with everybody in this group. Decide if that's sufficient for what you want to be doing. Like, yeah, we don't think we're going to be actually talking to each other that much. Or like if that's a big part of it, do you want to add in an extra layer? Like, oh, we also want like video chat. We're going to do something like Discord. That's how we do some of our other things. So think about that. What's your communication needs? Do you want this to be open to anybody or member only? Again, that's that setting and access code. You want to have additional ride leaders. So you can set group rides to have additional ride leaders, other people in your club. Again, if you've got 200 people coming to this ride or you have a club of a few thousand people, you might want additional ride leaders to say like, hey, it doesn't matter if this is your first ride ever, like you're not going to get dropped. There's going to be somebody like from the club riding near the back to talk to you the whole time. And you can uh, extend that with rubber banding. So you can have different rubber banding settings to keep everybody together. So again, do you want this to be like no stakes, no drop, super friendly, or like super inclusive in the way that some people could be doing a hard workout while other people are riding easy but still getting to ride together. And then bots, do you want to fill it out with bots to like again create visual interest and draft? And then a course. The course is always going to be a part of this. Like part of your just cool group ride community offering could be amazing courses from around the world. Every Saturday morning we ride one. Um, and then moving on from group rides to races, some of the same things as um, group rides that people want out of this, but then they also want good workouts and some kind of coaching and training can come from these. And I'll talk about races and training races. So things that matter. What's the format? Do you want scratch races, points races, time trials? Like what can you do to create more interest for people? Do you want to vary it week to week? What kind of riders do you have? What's going to provide them with the best like experience? Um, just running a flat time trial every week is good for the type of people in your community who want to just benchmark themselves every week. But cycling through a bunch of different formats might be something to keep people engaged throughout the winter before they can start riding outside again. Again, bots also kind of come up all the time. Like, how do you want to leverage these bots to like um, meet the needs? Do you want only humans racing against humans, or do you want to challenge people with aggressive bots or passive bots? And I'll talk about that in a minute. Um, Same thing, full trainer feel. Like, do you want to like force people to ride the course? And then matchmaking is an idea. TrainingPeaks Virtual has an internal ranking system um, for uh, overall, and then for different race types: climbing, time trial, sprint, and endurance. And so, again, do you want what's this thing you want to provide to people? You want to throw somebody into a race with everybody of every ability level, including bots, and just see how they fare. And it could be like this fun big group thing, or do you want to split people into like really competitive matched groups so you can like people feel like they have a chance. And those satisfy different needs. They provide different things at people at different, and you can use both at different times a year for different groups of people. Um, so going on from races, then we have training races. This is not an official thing in virtual. Um, I just think it's an idea of ways to set up races or group rides that really gives you a lot of potential that might not be obvious immediately um, when setting these things up and trying to provide something unique to people or gives people something unique to do. So, um, virtual has a realistic physics engine for drafting and breaking through corners. I'll let George chime in at the end of this slide if I miss anything or he wants to add anything to that. So that provides a really unique opportunity to practice those things that you don't get in a normal virtual environment. So if you're coaching a junior team or you coach beginners or you want to start a beginner club and they want to be racing criteriums, you can go pull the hardest criterium courses and go race them. And as a coach or a ride leader or whatever, you can be watching them and see if they're trying to pedal through corners or tell them when to be start coasting or help them understand like how to feel the draft and when they should be drafting and when they don't need to be and when they can be attacking. So all of the things that are like kind of hard to get at in the virtual world and that can be risky or overwhelming to new people in the real world, this gives them a good stepping stone. Like, hey, you're going to do this, your first big Italian tour in the summer, but you've never ridden a bike before. You're going to do your first criterium race in 3 months, but you've never like raced before. Let's like set this first easy transitional stepping stone of practicing in the virtual world so you can even see kind of what it looks like and set up a race series for that. Um, and then you can just keep building from there. If you're coaching a team, you can practice team tactics. If you want to like how they work together, you can say, okay, rider A, B, and C, we're going to do this race every week. And it's only going to be 40 minutes long. It's not going to interfere with training today. You can, A, B, and C, you're going to attack. You're going to just take turns attacking, and the rest of you are going to save it for the lead out. We're going to practice our lead outs. And there's no registration fee. You're not going to crash. There's no risk to just working these things out. Um, and you can make adjustments to that with if you make a race unranked, that seems like an abstract or like not clear setting. Like, why would I want to do that? That unlocks some bot settings that let you make bots more aggressive or more passive. And so think about ways if you're a coach, especially a tactical or team coach, like, oh, how can I leverage that to like create another interesting experience? And then you
Just,
can also kind of do, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead, George.
yeah, just to jump in about the racing and the cornering and wind and things like this. The when designing Training Peaks Virtual to begin with, you know, right from day one, that kind of replicating the physiological demands of real world cycling was right at the top of the list. So, you know, it's not like doing a spin class or something where you just twiddle your legs for half an hour and whoever's got the fastest sprint at the end wins a race. It's replicating the same physiological demands. So, for example, when you come into a corner, if you're going too fast, it will actually break you. It will cause the trainer resistance to increase significantly, slow you down, mimicking um, the effect of braking into the corner, and then you have to re-accelerate out with a slow spinning flywheel on your trainer. So it really, really punishing as if you're doing a crit race in the same way that a real life crit race is. So using these things like the wind to simulate tactics, or the cornering to simulate the physiological demands of actual cornering in real life is a great way to experiment with when to push on, when to back off, when to take a break, when to stop pedaling around the corners, all these kind of things. Lessons that you can learn in the virtual world, we're in a consequence-free environment where you can just do a race whenever you want, try a different thing out, see what works, see what doesn't, and then when you go out into the real world, then you know that and can and just apply it first time. So there's these different ways that are baked into how Training Peaks Virtual works that will help you become a better, stronger rider.
Yeah, and a lot of this, I'm bike racer. I was a former Criterium rider, wannabe pro, and the first crit I did in virtual, I didn't get beat, but I had to work much harder than I did because it took me a long time to figure out that the corners mean business. Like George wasn't messing around. Like if you try to coast through a corner, you get punished pretty bad. But I don't want to make this totally cycling focused. If you're in the triathlon world, we know that one of the struggles that triathletes have is, for one, they have this usually a singular big race every year, and sometimes it's far away. And if they're from the Midwest or Florida, or I'm throwing random places out there that might be mostly flat with straight roads, then they have all the fitness in the world, and then they show up to uh, Ironman Whistler or one of the more like technical courses, and that hurts them more than it should. There's no reason you can't, like, if you're a triathlon coach, you have a triathlon club, you can't set up events to help people prep for that. So then they can start like thinking and getting really familiar with these courses again in kind of low stakes environments instead of being totally blindsided um, by what they'll be experiencing when they get there. And then I threw in, let me go back one. I'd thrown in uh, rubber banding. So training ride with race simulation. You can do this with races. You can just set up unranked races and kind of configure them to do your practice. There's also, I think, I don't know how much this exists in the triathlon world and the cycling world. Like usually the hardest race you do every year is the Wednesday night group ride. And so you can set up group rides with rubber banding where everybody's just kind of doing the fun ride. You can set the rubber band to turn off uh, kilometer from the end, 5K from the end, and then do that as a town line sprint. So you can even start kind of blending these things together of like, oh, we're just going to do this group ride, but the last 5K is going to be kind of spicy because that's what we do in the real world. Like, let's try to make something similar. And those things are fun and like engaging. And so you can create those in this world as well. These are just examples of training races. Like, again, just trying to spark creative ideas. I think we covered most of these. Race simulation for team practice, testing out individual tactics. Like there's no reason you can't set up 4 15-minute scratch races in an evening and have your team say like, okay, we're going to practice tactic A, tactic B, C, and D in each of these races. And again, that's probably a good workout, but also a way to try these things. And then the other thing for triathletes is practicing TT pacing. And so if you have triathletes and time trial races, so if you have a bunch of athletes prepping for the same race, say it's just Kona Worlds or something, you can set up chunks of that course and practice your actual pacing for it. Or if it's a shorter race, actually do the whole thing and make sure they understand like how they might have to modify it based on hills or corners or things like that. Um, and then, like we said, even just some really, really beginner things. Uh, Beginner group ride 101 and then set it up with real course feel and see if they're shifting enough. See what's happening to their cadence and give them like coaching and guidance for that so they can be better at that in the real world as like more variables get added on. And then disguising workouts as races, classic move for cyclists who don't like to actually do workouts. Points races can make great interval workouts, building custom courses that have a hill every 4 minutes can be just like doing an interval workout. So again, just like creative and flexibility is what I hope to everybody's taking away from this. And then the last one, the last kind of major event type is group workouts. I'm going to talk about this the least because it's kind of obvious and what a lot of people are already doing. But you can set up, if you happen to be in the coach world or you just want to be setting up like something for your club, you can set up any structured workout, 4x5 VO2 intervals, 2x20 threshold, what something more creative and more fun, 40/20s, and set that as an event that everybody can sign up for and do. And it'll keep them together and auto scale everything to their threshold. So lots of overlap with like what community needs you're satisfying here with group rides and races. And most of the settings that you would set for this are pretty obvious, but I'll let George throw in anything else that
Yeah,
if he has other thoughts on workouts.
so one thing in particular about group workouts is there are kind of two ways in which you can set them up. One way is to set it up with a specific workout. So you, as the event organizer, can upload a workout of your choice, and everybody in that event will just automatically ride that workout. There's you don't need to do any syncing or anything else. You upload a workout, and everybody else just gets that workout automatically. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is like a rider's choice way. So you can set up a group workout to be 1 hour long, and then all the people riding in that event can then just pick their own workout to do in whatever order they want. In fact, they can do multiple workouts if they want within that time. So yeah, designing that kind of event, whether you want everybody to be doing the same workout all together, or whether you just want a communal group space where here's an hour, come do your workout, and all the people in your club or the people who you're coaching have slightly different training plans, and then they can do their own workout in that space together.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, again, it's the workout isn't just the workout if you want to set it up in this community way. Like a lot of, if you're coaches, you probably understand this, but a lot of what you're doing is coaching people how to train and how things should feel. So if you're coaching beginners or people who haven't done a lot of structured training, you have a lot of opportunity to reach a lot of people at once, saying like, here's how threshold intervals should feel. You know, how many of you have had athletes who they start threshold intervals and they're at an RPE of 10 in the first 30 seconds because they think they're supposed to be going hard the whole time and not so you can be coaching them almost with the amount of flexibility you don't get in the real world of going on group rides with them, of like talking to them in real time. Here's how a VO2 max interval should feel. Here's what you should be doing with sitting and standing. Here's like how it should feel as you get near the end. Here's how you can modify this. So there's a lot of like group coaching opportunity with these as well. So quick pro tips. I said quick, but then I kept adding them. So this is a lot of text. I'll also be publishing this hopefully soonish as some guides and checklists that we'll send to everybody who is in this. And we'll probably put this in Training Peaks University and on the YouTube channel and try to put attachments with it that are a little bit more nicely formatted. So here's some quick pro tips, and I'll let George also throw in any that he thinks to kind of get into setting up events and understanding community better. Enter other people's. Like go find open events that are like made by people and see what works, what doesn't. Like, did they describe it well enough? Did you know you're getting into? Did you like the number of bots? Did you like the course? Did it make sense? Just like go see what works and what doesn't. Make test events with just bots. This is another great thing is it's so easy to like kind of perfect your events in Training Peaks Virtual. You can set it up, schedule it for 6 minutes in the future with 20 bots, and then watch it play out. Especially if you're doing a custom course, you can see if the course makes sense. You can see like if the time seems about right, if it runs too long. There's I didn't add this as a pro tip, but there's a drone view camera. You can like fly the camera around and see how everything's kind of going as the race plays out. And then once you're sure, you can just stop spectating and leave the event. For custom courses, that's a whole other topic and feature, but you can upload GPS files from Strava GPS Studio, Ride with GPX. You can make them or record them. So that's to me, that's like the coolest thing in Training Peaks Virtual. And so something you can get creative with. I have two pro tips for if you're going to use custom courses. Created routes, and by that I mean ones where you go in and like map it out in Strava or Ride with GPS, tend to work a little bit better because you're going to make them exactly the way you intend deliberately. They work a little bit better than if you go to Strava and like pull a ride you did 2 weeks ago or download something from your Garmin, just because, oh, if you turned into a parking lot to go to the gas station, that your GPS recorded that, and that's going to be part of a race, and all of your races or club riders are going to be really confused about why they just took a detour into a parking lot. So if you want this to be important, like this is a route I'm going to use a lot, take the time to spend a few minutes and make it. And then try to preview it before important events. Like I said, set up a group ride or just you go yourself, ride it, have bots ride it and fly the drone camera around or something just to make sure it all looks right before you do, the Michigan State Championship road race on a course that's never been tested out. Start small and simple. That one's obvious with anything like this. Just set up a group ride. Another pro tip, we have free Tuesdays. So Training Peaks Virtual is free on, Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, still the first Tuesday of every month. Um, and so if you were trying to get like new people in who might not even be on Training Peaks and they don't want to sign up for Training Peaks premium account, or you want to make it easy for them to try it out, set your events on those Tuesdays, your like big funnel events on those first Tuesdays of every month, and it'll be free for everybody who wants to try it if they don't have Training Peaks premium. And then, like I said, I've said it a bunch of times, be creative. The Around the World race. Somebody has already created a free custom route creator. If any of you used to play like Gran Turismo or other like racing games, you can make your own courses. So, of course, being millennials and Gen Xers, people immediately made every Mario Kart course as a GPS file that you can upload to virtual and race Rainbow Road, your favorite F1 track, the Nürburgring. You can like just have that as like the cool race you do. Pro race experiences. So there's a really successful promoter in Europe that's doing, he sets up all of these Fondo style rides that are on the last 100K of Tour Flanders or the last 80K of Liège-Bastogne-Liège. And he runs those all the time, but then sometimes on the day the race is happening. So you can ride the course while the pros are riding it. Routes that aren't accessible or cycling friendly in the real world. You want to do a downtown New York criterium if you want to ride up Mount Fuji. We just added Mount Fuji. That's not normally a cycling accessible location. You're this really cool driving road near where you live, but it would be a death trap on a bike. You can now like experience that. And then mixed like virtual real world race series. So one thing I'm doing is I have a time trial series set up right now that are on free local courses to us. And I have a competition for the people who have the best combined time to race those courses in February on virtual and then in May on those courses in the real world. Any other pro tips, George?
Only to pick out the picture on the right. One of the really cool things that Training Peaks Virtual now does is that it will build the terrain around your road. So you upload a GPX file that you've created anywhere in the world, any route, any distance, any time, and then Training Peaks Virtual will use satellite data to go and build all of the hills, all of the scenery that's around you in real life, such that when you're riding through your virtual route, then you get to see everything that you see in the real world as well.
Yeah, and that came out, if I'm not mistaken, this
It
morning.
it's rolling out at the moment, so that'll be live across all the platforms by the weekend.
Yeah, and to me, there's it's just very cool, but also has a for serious racers or people who are like doing events seriously, there's a lot of practical consideration for this of like, oh, you put all of this effort into getting ready for this big Ironman race or Unbound. The more realistic your virtual training for that is, the more better prepared you'll be. So you can see like, oh, I know that after I go around the big lake, it's the hardest climb of the day. So then when you actually get there, you see that lake in real world, like you have been there and experienced it before, and you're just that little bit more prepared than you were before. And so then last things, I'm going to send this out as a like a worksheet or a checklist or something, things to think about. And we've talked about all these, but now here's the questions you can ask yourself to then go in and start making these decisions. What are your goals? Like, do you want to monetize any of this? Monetization could have been its whole other thing. But like, do you want this to be a monetizable thing? Do you want this to be a funnel to your monetized like coaching services? Or are you just doing something nice for people? Because monetization and community are kind of in tension sometimes. So you're allowed to make money from this, but do you want to? What's your goal with that? Who do you want to be? Are you a race promoter? Are you a coach? Are you a group ride leader? Or are you just that person in every friend group who's the one who organizes everything? Who do you want in your community? Everyone? A specific uh, minority group of people? And by minority, I mean like what we typically think of as minorities, or like the people you work with at your company, or the people who are elite racers in your town, or first time racers. So who do you want to be a part of this? Um, where can you find these people? Is this an existing club that you already run? Well, that's easy. You're just putting the kid in virtual and doing the group rides in the winter or that you would normally do outside. Um, you want to partner with local races. So say like, hey, I'm going to be the one who like does the winter training series for this big local gravel race or triathlon that happens in the summer. And then who can you help and who can help you? So again, like I said, real races, real in real life, like outdoor races. Do you want to partner with race promoters who can help you get people while you help them with helping those uh, racers feel more prepared? Is this more like the MS rides, the multiple sclerosis charity rides? Do you want to partner with charities or other organizations? Even just like I said, the place you work. There's a Hewlett Packard factory in where I live, and there's so many cyclists there that there's a Hewlett Packard cycling team and uh, virtual club for them. So even that can be a community, even though it's not typically what we think of as like a cycling or triathlon community. Um, and then do you want or who can help you? Like you said, if you have a big team, do you want athletes to help you put on events? Do you want to have assistant managers with some of these events? Um, or is this going to be small enough and you want to be in enough control? So be thinking about these things. And then when it comes time to actually click the buttons and set up events, it'll be a lot more clear. And so then the checklist, join a race or group ride. If you haven't done this in Training Peaks Virtual, just do it so you can see what it's like. Schedule a ride for yourself with your own custom course so you can see what that's like. And so you can start to get a sense of what creating events is like. Decide on some basic things you want to accomplish. So go back to that list from the previous slide. Make a club or team in Training Peaks Virtual. You can do this whenever you're ready. I just happen to put it in number 4. Um, invite people to join that club and then schedule your first race or ride for others. And from there, you can kind of just rinse, repeat, and adapt until you get something that you want and that maybe provides something for other people that's better than staring at a wall or watching Lord of the Rings for the 30th time while they ride their trainer. Uh, so we are about to getting to the point where we answer questions, but just last slide of resources, and we'll send this out in follow-ups. If you have questions for me, I'm education@trainingpeaks.com. We have online courses, Training Peaks University. I will probably turn this webinar or something like it into a course there with, like I said, the checklists, the worksheets, the things so you can go back and review it. We have a integrating Training Peaks Virtual into your coaching business course already. We have an esports cycling and coaching course that was made by a professional esports racer and coach. And then the website, there is a website that is connected to Training Peaks Virtual with lists of events and teams. That's good to know about, tpvirtualhub.com. And there are teams that just let people in if you want to see what being a part of a team is like. My team, your group ride, I'll let you in. Team Lou is a big open group, and there's many others that just want as many people in there as possible. So those are some useful resources. But I think we have good timing. We can have George add anything extra he wanted or answer any questions that came up in the chat. I see a notification icon with 62 next to it. So
We've had lots of good questions in chat going on. Before we do that, George, do you want to do a quick overview of new release that's rolling out right now? We mentioned the real world terrain, but do you want to talk about the other things we've got there?
Yes, so as well as the real world terrain for your GPX files, we've added lots of other kind of communal things. So there's now achievements in there. There's now um, far more engaging world. We've added an awful lot more to the default islands to make them more interesting to ride around. So there's a new alpine town, Peaksville, that you can go visit. There's a tech center. There's hot air balloons and blimps and all sorts of things to go explore. But also to one of the to the point of one of the questions raised, we've uh, made the whole process a lot slicker, a lot easier to use, a lot more friendly to use. So the UI is now a lot more streamlined. Um, we've fixed a bunch of bugs with pairing that some people have hit before. So in particular, there was an issue swapping between erg mode and terrain mode that hit several older makes of trainers that we've now fixed and resolved. So everything should now work a lot more smoothly with this latest release. Yeah, as I say, it started rolling out this morning and should be complete by the end of this week.
Great.
um,
Go ahead,
oh, I was
Cody.
just gonna say I saw one question and it was the last pro tip I was gonna add. Um, Events have like a basically a copy paste function. And so if you find yourself doing the same thing, like I'm going to run the same race or something similar to the same race or group ride every Sunday, if you go into the app, there's a button next to the manage events thing that says just copy. So you can just copy it, change the time and date, copy it, change the time and date, or even copy it, change the course and time, copy it, change the course and time. So there are ways to like even save time if you are trying to manage a ton of events. And one of them is just like cloning and duplicating events over and over again.
Yeah, so
But
so crucially, what we found was that hardly anybody really genuinely wants a repeating event on exactly the same course every single week. So instead of having that, what we've got is basically a copy and paste. So as Cody said, you can just click on an existing event, copy it, paste it, change the time, change the course, schedule, hit go, and it's done. So whilst there isn't that repeating events function, that's for a good reason, but it only takes a couple of clicks of the mouse to create a new event.
We had a question on GP Explore. Do you still customize the course settings when loading a GPX file of the race course?
Yes, you can do. So there are all sorts of options that you can set, but by default, you just upload a GPX file and you can go ride it. Um, in general, though, there are lots of knobs and buttons you can tweak and pull to get it to be exactly how you like it.
Yeah. And then one on training plan with lactate threshold, heart rate, and using virtual. So this could be a good way to talk about heart rate uh, settings there.
Yeah, so TrainingPeaks Virtual supports lots of different workout types. So as well as the obvious percentage of your FTP when specifying a workout, also support heart rate based workouts. So you can just specify a percentage of your maximum heart rate, or you can specify a fixed heart rate. So you can specify, right, this is going to be done at 150 or something, and TrainingPeaks Virtual will support that, not only in terms of displaying what heart rate you should be at for a particular interval, but actually it's got a built-in erg mode as well, so it will keep your heart rate at the right level. So if you push too hard and your heart rate rises above that level, it will drop the resistance to keep your heart rate at the prescribed level.
Pretty cool. All right. We had a question about, do you allow or have a way to allow Zwift Cog Click users to use virtual in non-erg mode?
So TrainingPeaks Virtual actually fully supports virtual shifting out of the box on all makes and models of trainer without using any hardware at all. So you don't need a Zwift cog or shift to use virtual shifting. It just works anyway. That said, if you really want to use your Zwift cog, then that just works out of the box. And if you want to use virtual Zwift shifts, then there are third-party apps that will translate the Zwift commands into TrainingPeaks virtual commands.
Yeah, I had bought the old like purpose-built Zwift play that connects to your road handlebars, and I really liked those. And then they didn't work, and I think I spent $5 on an app that now makes it work in virtual, and I can either shift normally or use those for virtual shifting. There are shifts. The virtual shift settings are somewhere in your settings. If they might just be turned off, but you can like set the number of gears in the range, and it seems to work pretty seamlessly.
And we talked about this a bit, but one of the questions was building a ride with cornering and braking. That's just a ride that has corners. And then can I set a ride that requires pace lining, and how does that work?
Yeah, so there are lots of different ways you can do that depending on exactly what you want. So one of the things that you can configure in Training Peaks Virtual effectively a neutral zone. So there is if you set up an event such that say the first 2 kilometers or something is a neutralized zone, then a bot will spawn at the head of the peloton and just ride at a constant pace for that 2 kilometers, and you can't overtake it. And then when you hit the end of the neutral zone, it will pull off, and everybody can start racing. And that was how it was originally intended. But people very quickly worked out that you could use it for all sorts of other things. So, for example, you could set the neutral zone to be the entire length of your route, which effectively then gives you a pacer for the entire route that you can just ride behind as a pace line. Or, as previously mentioned, if you fancy track racing, then you can set the pacer to run as a keirin. So you can set the race to be 1,500 meters, and after 1,000 meters, set the race to be 2,000 meters, and after 1,500 meters, the neutral zone ends, the bot pulls off, and everybody piles down to the finish. So there are all these kind of configuration options that, with a bit of creativity, you can create everything from a paced ride through to a full-on keirin just by tweaking how you use that neutral zone bot.
Nice. All right. I think we got through all the questions that I have here. We did have questions about getting these slides, so we'll send out a recording that has this presentation and can also send out a PDF of the slides. But I think that's our show, everybody. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate it, and hope you enjoy your group rides in Training Peaks Virtual.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.